Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I love the warmth and the kindness that I already feel in this room. Welcome to the folks who have traveled from far away. Welcome to folks who already know each other. And a special welcome to anyone who has never heard the story of Bright Stars of Bethlehem and their incredible work. This is the third event that Prince of Peace has put on, trying to bring awareness to what is happening in Palestine. And I will say this is the event we are the most excited and Twitter-pated about. If you know Reverend Mitri and his work, it is an honor to have you. A few words of welcome as you settle into this space. The restrooms are behind the green wall. Please turn off your cell phones. We are recording this event, so if you want the recording afterwards, you can get it. No problem at all. We have your email addresses. Prince of Peace is part of a larger umbrella of churches called the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and we are honored to have a couple of other special guests, including our very own Bishop, Jeff Johnson, who is here to give a few words of welcome and greeting. Bishop Jeff, come on up, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Sarah. Good evening, community, and good evening, church. It's really great to be here. Welcome, Pastor Mitri, to the Sierra Pacific Synod, to not only this congregation, but to all the congregations who I bring greetings from. And I also bring a bit of good news. Excuse me. A bit of good news. This is, tangentially related to some of what we'll be talking about tonight, but we know of everything that's been happening in Minneapolis and the way ICE has been acting out of control in congregations and schools and hospitals and civic centers and destroying lives and instilling fear and radically upsetting communities. Our synod joined 4 other synods in filing a lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security, and we received word this week that the judge has granted an injunction protecting church spaces from ICE enforcement. So, it's a wily administration. We don't know how long this will last before they figure out the next step. But this is good news. It was just a couple of weeks ago that Pastor Mitri kindly hosted a group of bishops at Dar Al-Kalima University. We were very grateful for that, and engaged us in conversation and toured us around the university and showed us the art exhibits and the restaurant, and an incredible place of hope. And we know Pastor Mitri as a prophet, a theologian of hope and resilience and courage. And we know the situation not just in Palestine, where genocide and steroid-style apartheid. This is not South African apartheid. This is apartheid on steroids, right? Where the surveillance state and security is being exported not just to places around the West Bank, but is being deported to Minneapolis, to our southern border. We are exporting there, learning there is this thing going on so that the surveillance security state that we're living in is being developed in real time on real people in real places. So when we say prophet of hope and resilience and courage, it's in that context, and it is just an honor to be with you tonight. So greetings again. Thank you for this brief word.
Thank you, Bishop Jeff. And now, all of us who have worked in organizations know that without the logistical person, without the person who knows details, without that incredible heart of an executive director, things don't happen as well as they could. And I'm honored to call Tracy Ortman up, the executive director of Bright Stars of Bethlehem.
Thank you so much, Pastor Sarah. We are thrilled to be back here again for the third time in just about a year and a half, which is really amazing for us to be in front of a group that many times so quickly. Bishop Jeff, we are so thankful you're here with us tonight. And Kathy and John, for everything you've done to bring us here. Lucy, if I didn't take a minute to recognize Lucy Janjiggins, who has her beautiful artwork out in the space and has brought it for us and is so supportive of our mission. And again, everybody here who has come out tonight and has made this possible. I will not take much of your time because you are here to hear from this very amazing man here, Reverend Dr. Mitri Rahab. He is the leading Palestinian theologian with 56 books, I believe at this point, if my count is correct, either been an editor, author, contributor to those books. They have been translated into 11 different languages. We still wonder when he sleeps. He is also running the university, which you will hear more about. It is an oasis in the middle of Palestine, bringing art and joy, culture, resiliency. And he's the founder of Bright Stars of Bethlehem. We are the fundraising arm here in the US. Without him, we would not be here. And we're all here for amazing work tonight. There is so much more that could be said about Mitri, but we do not have enough time to cover it all. So instead, I will pass this over to Reverend Dr. Mitri Rahab.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Sarah, Pastor Sarah, for hosting us. This is a great church. It's called Prince of Peace, but it's focused on justice, which is something I love because without justice, there is no peace. And I think you live that. And Bishop Jeff, thank you for your words. Actually, what you said is so important. The connection between what's happening in Palestine and what's happening in Minneapolis and in other places. You know, just for you to know, I arrived 2 p.m. this afternoon from Palestine. So if I say something wrong, it's because of that, okay? And this is my second event, so I had already one event before coming here. But what I said at that event actually is that I called it what's happening, I called it the Israelization of the world. You remember 20 years ago when you were going to an airport and you could just go in 5 minutes? The only airport in the world that had security like crazy was in Tel Aviv, right? A few years later, all airports in the world became Israelized. You know, every time I came to this country, people, 20 years ago, people hated walls because they were a symbol of the Soviet Union, right? Remember, tear down this wall, Reagan in Berlin? Every American hated walls until the Israeli built a wall and exported it as something good. And then when Trump was elected, the first time, the crowd was shouting, build this wall, remember? The Israelization of the world. In Minneapolis, you know, the soldiers before ICE, or the police actually, who killed George Floyd, were trained at Israeli by Israeli officers. The Israelization of the world. And so, you know, I love this country, but I fear now for this country if it becomes more and more and more like Israel, It's not good. It's not good. But I know you came today to hear more about our work, about hope, but the bishop triggered me to say this. So he's to blame, not me, okay? But thank you, Bishop, because I think so well said. You know, when you think of Palestine, I don't have a clicker, and this is something usually, so I will just tell you like that, and then, you know, in Palestine, there are, believe it or not, 54 universities and colleges. I mean, we are, what, a nation in the West Bank and Gaza, including East Jerusalem, 5 million people, but 54 universities. This is maybe one of the highest number of universities per capita in the world. But none of those actually has a focus on art, culture, and design. And so we thought this is what we want to focus on. You know, we called our university Dar Al-Kalima, and this is really important. Maybe you don't know what it means in Arabic. We have here some Arabic-speaking people. But Dar means house, and Al-Kalima means the word. So it's the house of the word. The word, you remember the word became flesh. Where did that happen? In Bethlehem, right? So this is why it's called Dar al-Kalima. But what many people don't know is that in the Quran, Jesus is called Al-Kalima as well. Did you know that? Yeah, Surah Al-Isra. So what we wanted to say is that Christians as well as Muslims should feel at home in this university. But Al-Kalima also could mean the word something very secular, because we want also those who might not have religion or are secular also to feel at home at Dar al-Kalima. And so this is really what it means. But it's the kalima that becomes film. It's the kalima that becomes story. It's the kalima that becomes painting. It's the kalima that becomes theater. This is what Dar al-Kalima is all about. So Dar al-Kalima is the first and only university in all of Palestine with a focus on arts, culture, and design. So there is no other universities from the 54 with this focus. So when you come, this is how it looks like when you enter. And our vision actually, our vision is that we might have life and have it abundantly. Because, you know, everything Israel is doing in Palestine is telling us every day that we will not have life, and definitely it's not going to be abundant. This is what the genocide is trying to tell us. And yet we want to focus on this vision because remember, it was one of our Palestinian Jewish person 2,000 years ago who said he came that we might have life and have it abundantly. And the we includes Palestinians. Sometimes some people think it doesn't include Palestinians. It does include Palestinians. And this is what we want to focus on. And our mission is to educate the next generation of creative leaders in Palestine and to use actually art, culture, and design as the tool for social transformation. So I'm a theologian at heart, so I write books in theology. I'm politically active, but the university focuses on something different, which is art, culture, and design. And what we really want is to invest in the so-called creative class. The idea of a creative class was developed actually by a Canadian professor with the name Florida. He said in every society there are 20% of the people who are very creative. And creative means they develop their own ideas and they can transform these ideas into businesses. And so this is exactly the group that we want to focus on in Palestine. We started very small in 1995, really in a small room as a cultural center. 2006, we became a community college, then a liberal arts college in 2013, and 2021, we became a full-fledged university, meaning we can now offer graduate degrees as well. We have 4 colleges, community college, 2-year, College of Art and Cultural Management, College of Architecture and Design, and the graduate school. For us, gender justice is really important. And so women empowerment is at the heart of what we do. So in our board, 50% are women. I have right now 3 vice presidents, all of them are women. And students, 66% of our students are women. When you think maybe of Palestine, you don't think that, but actually in all universities, the majority are women. We opened this year 2 new areas at our university. One is the Rami Zahikuri Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, meaning we don't want our students to sit there waiting for somebody to hire them, but we want them to develop their own ideas and to transform them into businesses. And the other place that we opened is the Hospitality Educational Center, which is the dome that you see here. I hope many of you will come one day to taste the food there. It's just amazing. I mean, fine dining, the best way. And our campus is powered by, to 90% almost, by solar energy, which is our commitment to the environment, which is really important. This is why I like to have always control. I just cannot do that. It's just. Okay, we come to the context, because that's, I think, important for you to know. So, when you live in Palestine, we face the longest occupation in modern history. I mean, people in Palestine, they don't know anything but the occupation. And occupation is not the right word. That doesn't really tell us what it is. Because I tell you what it is. So for Palestinians, the prison is not an exception. It is the rule. What does that mean? From 1967 until now, guess how many Palestinians sat in Israeli prisons? 1 million people. We are a nation of 5 million, meaning every 5th person in Palestine sat in an Israeli prison. For what? For wanting freedom and liberty. You know, from our church, we had church elders in Israeli prisons for 3 years without trial. We had young people in Israeli prison without trial. But it's even more than that. Imagine that right now in the West Bank, there are over 1,200 checkpoints. 1,200 checkpoints. Between every village and the other, there is a checkpoint, which means it meant we are all prisoners. If we look at Bethlehem, for example, look, this is how Bethlehem looks. It has 54 these gates around it, 54. I mean, there is no street going out of Bethlehem or into Bethlehem without such a gate that is controlled by Israel by remote control. So they can close all of them and open all of them. Usually, many of them, they are closed in the evening, they are opened in the morning, but you never know when. So imagine if you are a professor and you want to come from another city which has 202 gates to Bethlehem with the 56 gates, how long it will take you. But this is, I think, the bishop, when he said this is actually a different kind of apartheid, it is. Because he's saying that because he saw it with his own eyes. But this is what we live day in, day out. Our students coming, they have to go through this. And, you know, at such a checkpoint, it's all inside the West Bank. These are not people wanting to go into so-called Israel, but these are people just want to move from one village to the other, from one town to the other. They might spend 3-4 hours there. Right now, when I go to Ramallah, which is like maybe 30 miles north of Bethlehem, it used to take me 1 hour. Now I never know how long it's going to take, 3-4 hours. And now I have developed a system. I have my small hand luggage always in the car in case I need to sleep in Ramallah because of the checkpoint. So imagine, I mean, every day you have to think, which checkpoint is open, can I go, can I not go, and how that disturbs the daily life of people. So when I want to go to Ramallah, I look at my mobile. There is an app. Palestinians are always creative. So they created an app that shows exactly, you know, which gate is open. So the green means open, red means closed. So I need to say, okay, is this open now or closed? But, you know, in 10 minutes it could change. So I might get there thinking it's open, but by the time it is closed. This is the daily life. So this is how we feel actually, squeezed between walls. And this is when I want to go from Bethlehem to Jerusalem. Right now I'm not allowed, but when I was allowed, this is how we have to be squeezed within these walls like sheeps. I mean, sheep, right? It wasn't designed for human. So, I guess you got depressed just by looking at these few pictures. Sorry for that, but imagine if you live day in, day out there. So, let me move to the third part, which is where art and culture spread hope. Culture, some people think it's a luxury, but it's really not. You know, we were actually the first organizations to start painting murals on the wall. In fact, we brought 3 very well-known muralists from Mexico because they have more experience, right? We brought them to Palestine to paint on the wall, and this is one of the first paintings that was done. To exist is to resist. It tells exactly our story. But you know, there was a time, say in Oslo, 30 years ago, when people thought, you know, maybe in 5 years we are going to get our state. People thought our oppression is like a sprint. You run fast and then you reach. Unfortunately, it proved to be a marathon, unending marathon. And in such a context, it's important, art becomes very important, because culture becomes the art to breathe. You know, when everything around you is falling apart, actually culture sustains you, because if you don't learn how to run in a marathon, you will kill yourself. It's a long marathon, unfortunately. And this is important for resilience. So, but culture also is a sacred space where people learn how to breathe freely in a context where the fresh air seems to be almost already used up. This is how we feel, that the air is already used up. It's not only that it's polluted, but it is really used up. Hopelessness, especially these days, can spread easily. But actually culture can still give us that stamina to continue our struggle. But also it's a space for intercultural exchange. This is very important. Art is like keeping the windows of Palestine open, that exchange with the world can take place. And for us, this is very important. So we need people and artists to come to Palestine, and we need also our story to get out of Palestine. In fact, this picture is from our last conference that took place in 2023, and the last day was October 5th. So we had 200 people, including many people from the US. We had Linda, Ed, Tracy. No, you were not there. Your husband, exactly. And it was a time of celebration, exchange. We had so many professors, artists from all over the world. And we ended on October 4th with a dance and a great banquet like in the Bible. And then everyone left, thanks God. And on October 7th, it was a different world, suddenly. But also culture is an important tool for emancipation. At Al-Kalima, we started the first female soccer team in Palestine. And that was, maybe 18 years ago. Because soccer for women was, very important part in terms of women empowerment. As pastor, when I preach, maybe here it's different, how many times do they quote me in the newspaper about my sermons? Very seldom, right? Okay, now with social media is something different. But, the soccer people, they are every day, they have a full page. And they can speak about women empowerment in a way that is much more powerful than what I can do. And I noticed actually that many of the films that our students are developing has to do with resisting patriarchy. Very powerful tools for women to tell their story in a way that is, again, much, much more powerful than me telling it. But culture is also an amazing tool of communication. A film can tell the Palestinian story much more powerful than anything else. Like this film that was done by one of our professors, it's called Vibrations from Gaza. It has received already 18 awards worldwide. It was filmed in Gaza before October 7th, and it is about deaf children in Gaza and how they deal with the drones that are 24/7 flying over Gaza with their, zzz. Imagine, days and night you hear zzz like that. And how does it do to deaf people who even don't hear, but they feel the vibrations of it? And this is really what this film is about. Amazing film. All of these films, by the way, you can show them here at the church. There is a distributor where people can have them. But also art as a tool for economic empowerment. We want our students to be able to live from art, which is not easy, but many of them are doing great work. As you can see here, it's something different, not the mass production that you see, but something that really talks about the beauty of Palestine at a time when Palestine is being destroyed, and the beauty as well. But also culture is a tool to resist erasure. What's happening in Gaza is not that just about, the people who were murdered or injured or people in prison. But what Israel actually is trying to do in Gaza is to erase our culture totally. All the cultural institutions in Gaza were destroyed. Every one of them. The museums looted. And you can see the difference. It's actually, just destroying everything. They call it this carpet eraser. But again, if you look at the other picture, think of what an art piece can do. The watermelon. You know the story of the watermelon? In the first Intifada, Palestinians were prohibited from showing a Palestinian flag or drawing a Palestinian flag. Actually, they will take you to prison if you did that. So the Palestinian artist has to be very creative. So they came up with the watermelon. Why? Because the watermelon has exactly the 4 colors of the Palestinian flag. And now, exactly this art piece, you see it, we see it here, right? You see it everywhere in the world as a sign of solidarity with Palestine. But it is just this very simple symbol, right? The watermelon that shows now actually how we are resisting erasure. Edward Said discussed the role of culture in resistance. And he wrote, in the case of a political identity that being threatened, that's our case, culture is a way of fighting against extinction and obliteration. Culture is a form of memory against effacement. This is exactly the power of culture and the importance of culture. So our slogan, hope is what we do at Bright Stars of Bethlehem. I can tell you about what Israel does all the time, and maybe you hear it, it's ugly, but we need to create facts on the ground. Israel has been creating destructive facts on the ground for too long. We need in Palestine to create constructive facts on the ground. So imagine why art is important. For example, to reclaim our Palestinian Christianity. Some of you maybe have visited Christmas Lutheran Church, where I ministered for 30 years. I was there the senior pastor. And look at the beautiful stained glass windows that were manufactured in Germany in the 19th century. If you look at them, look at this right one, Jesus in the temple, you think Jesus was Irish. I mean, look, with his blonde hair and blue eyes. I mean, for God's sake, this is in Bethlehem, in Palestine, where all started, and we know that, Jesus for sure didn't look like an Irish. I mean, he looked like Palestinians. And so actually this was one idea why we started the university, because we wanted to create contextual art. Very important. I mean, these are part of the pieces that we have, the Last Supper in a Palestinian style. And this is how it most probably was. Not, the Da Vinci right? But also restoring our cultural heritage. And when we started that was before the genocide. But imagine how many icons and paintings, ancient icons and paintings there are in Palestine, and they need actually to be restored. And so this is what we teach. And here you can see our students actually restoring the icons in a Greek Orthodox church by Bethlehem. The interesting thing here, actually, most of the women, the students that you see, are Muslims. But it's Muslim women restoring icons in a Greek Orthodox church. This is Palestine. But also empowering the next generation of artists is important. So we started several, actually, awards. One is in photography in the name of Karima Aboud. Karima Aboud was the first female photographer in the entire Arab world. She started her career in 1920. How many female photographers were there in the US by 1920? Right? But she was, by the way, a PK. You know what PK is? Pastor's kid. So, but she was an entrepreneurial woman. She had 4 studios, imagine. One in Bethlehem, where she lived, one in Jerusalem, where she worked, one in Haifa, and one in Nazareth, where her relatives were. And she would drive in 1920s with her own car between one studio and the other. Thinking of Palestine, this is not the image what most people have, because the image of Palestine was distorted by Zionists all the time. This is not what you hear, right? So we did something in her name. And actually, 15 years ago, nobody knew in Palestine who Karima Aboud is. It was by providence, maybe, that someone came to me and said, do you know if this woman is buried in your cemetery? I said, the name Aboud rings a bell because we had pastors with the name Aboud, but I'm not aware of Karima. So this took me actually on a journey to research her story. For 1.5 years, actually, I was working to try to know more about her. At night, I will dream of her. Thanks God she was dead, otherwise I would have been, by my wife. So we wrote her story in a book. 4 films are done already about her, including Al Jazeera documentary did a film about her. And 5 years ago, Google, when you open Google, you have always something. Googled 5 years ago, celebrated her on her birthday. So from somebody who was nobody knew about him, to be on Google, this is exactly actually what Dar al-Kalima is trying to do. It's to be proud of our heritage. So these are some of the winners in 2022 about Karima Aboud Award, young photographers. In that year, interestingly enough, all three were from Gaza. You know, Gaza has lots of artists. The thing is, if you look at the one to the right, that young man who won the first prize is missing since November 23. So either he is still under the rubble, or Israel took him as prisoners. You know, there are over 10,000 prisoners right now. Nobody talks about them. They talk only about the hostages. All of them released, but there are 10,000 Palestinian hostages in Israeli prisons. The second prize went to another young man from Gaza. He was murdered in an Israeli airstrike. Remember the story made here also news when they struck the food truck. And he was in the neighborhood trying to get some food for his family, so he was murdered and killed. The third prize went to a third person from Gaza. He was able to get out of Gaza and became an influencer. He is, maybe some of you, Mu'taz is his name, saw him on social media. He always show pictures about Gaza. So he became an influencer. So this is actually just this, by chance, these three pictures show actually what's happening in Gaza today in terms of the genocide. But we have also another award in the name of Ismail Shammout, who was one of the most famous also Palestinian painters, who died in exile as well. You know, our students made it all the way to Cannes Film Festival. In fact, you can see here Wissam Jafari is from Dheisha refugee camp, which is the largest refugee camp in Bethlehem, won the third prize at Cine Foundation at Cannes Film Festival a few years ago. And last year, actually, another young man, Saif, also from the same refugee camp, was among the top 18 young filmmakers out of over 2,200 filmmakers worldwide. But again, this is from the refugee camp to the red carpet. This is what actually Dar al-Kalima does. Again, researching our history is very important. So we were really proud that one of our professors just this last year actually wrote this 3-volume about Palestinian ethnomusicology, because music is something that we, again, can be proud of. Munir is one of our students in the master. He spent in Israeli prison 7 years. 7 years. He graduated this last semester. And actually, his master thesis examined visual expression in the artwork of the Palestinian political prisoners in Israeli detention camps and prisons. So what he did was he interviewed 50 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons about the art they do. And this was his master thesis. Amazing. And you can see here some of the paintings that he collected. Amazing work. But again, this was for him also a kind of, a way like a therapy, a way to work out, all of these 7 years that he spent in prison in a creative way. We are the only university in Palestine that offers a master's degree in art therapy, art and music therapy. And you know how important that is? Here you talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Doesn't work in Palestine. Why? Because we are never in the post. This is continuing since 100 years. So how to deal with this? There is no theory yet for that. But this is what we are trying to figure out. And so it's called continuous, not post, but continuous. So, and we as you can see, we published the first book in Arabic about that. The last part, let me speak about our training center in Gaza. This is a picture of our center in Gaza from outside before it was destroyed. So this used to be the life at our center there. You can see Rana up there to the right. She is the director of our training center. She is still the director, though she left Gaza. We had every month in Gaza an art exhibition, as you can see there. We had programs for kids, and we had our students who learned different kinds of artwork. It was a place full of life, and we were so proud because Gaza has so many creative people and creative young people. Rana herself is an artist. Unfortunately, during Holy Week 2024, our campus was bombed by Israel, and this is how it looks right now. So all the artwork, nobody was killed, thanks God, but all the artwork, everything was just destroyed in a matter of moments. This is what is called scholasticide, which means Israel has destroyed all 14 universities in Gaza. So why do you do that? Because they don't want anyone to stay in Gaza. They want to make life just unlivable. No schools, no universities, no water, no health. This is why 33 out of the 36 hospitals are out of function. So making life unlivable. I mean, you saw these pictures. So we had over 2,000 Gazan students registered to take online courses. This is after or during the genocide, because they are eager to get a degree, even in these difficult circumstances. We have still 46 staff people in Gaza, and they are mainly working with children now through art therapy in the camps where they are displaced. We have, there used to be 36, now we have 46, and now this is an older one. Now they are reaching to over 25,000 kids in the camps. All of them are displaced, even our staff, all of them, the 46. But they said we cannot give up. Now it's the time for us to be even more creative, more active with kids there. This is the Palestinian resilience. And so just 3 months ago, we published this book called Lilies of Gaza, which talks about the artwork of 22 female artists from Gaza, again highlighting women artists. 2 of those 22 artists were murdered during the genocide. 6 made it out of Gaza. The rest are still in Gaza. I tell you, I mean, these women are so powerful. I mean, every time I speak with them, we have them on Zoom. It's amazing. In fact, tomorrow we have the launch of this book in Nazareth. This is the fifth launch of the book in different cities. We started in Bethlehem. We went to the U.S., then to Jerusalem, Jordan, and now it's in Nazareth. You can get the book soon, by the way. This is a short film done by the kids in Gaza in the program that we do. You know, this is in the refugee, this is in where are displaced. So they were dreaming before the genocide of becoming famous artists. This is what they are saying. Can we live to realize our dream? The thing actually is that, you know, they do this with very, they don't have any, cannot like here go to a place and buy art supplies. They have to be always creative, out of nothing to create something. But again, they tell their story in a very, very powerful way. So, we hope that, or not we hope, we are committed to rebuilding Gaza. Destruction should not have the last word. And this is our commitment to our people in Gaza. It's not the board of peace that you hear about, because that is just managing the war, the genocide, instead of rebuilding Gaza. And, you know, every time I speak to our students, to our staff in Gaza, they are determined, you know. I spoke with one just 2 days ago, and he's sick. And I was saying, you know, unfortunately, we cannot even get sick people out of Gaza. It's very, very difficult. He said, I don't want to get out of Gaza. I want to live here and I want to die here. So with this commitment, we want to rebuild Gaza. But we cannot rebuild Gaza without making Israel accountable. The thing with this board of peace is that nobody is accountable. Even, you know, Netanyahu himself is in the board of peace. I mean, what kind of board of peace is this? You know, you destroy everything and then you become a peacemaker. You know, in the last 100 years, Israel has destroyed Palestine several times, not only one time. And not one single time was made accountable. As long as Israel is not made accountable, they will continue to do it. And as long as the US gives them all the toys for free, you know, the F-35 that you saw that the kids had, and tanks, etc., for free, they can continue to do that. And unfortunately, many seminaries, they give Israel not the hardware, but the software. That's Christian Zionism. that also support Israel. So as long as we don't combat Christian Zionism, this will continue. And so to rebuild Gaza, we need more than just cement and mortar. You know, justice is, which is at the heart of this church, justice is important. That's our focus, and we can do it together. There are no place for fainted-hearted hearts in Palestine. I think the genocide happened because Israel saw that after 100 years, they were not able actually to get rid of the Palestinians. 100 years, with all the power of the empire, they were not able to destroy us. You remember what we read in the Bible in 2 Corinthians 4? Paul say, do we have a Bible here? I'm not sure if there are Bibles in churches today, so because I would like to end actually with that. Thanks God there are Bibles still in the church. So Paul is saying, and this is, for me, he talks about Palestine. He says, we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. Thank you.
So I think we can take a few questions for Mitri if anybody has some.
You've spoken so much about the power of culture, and yet when authoritarians try to take over, one of the things they try to do is destroy the culture. So how is culture used to resist the destruction of culture?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, for example, right now we are trying to document all the Gazan art. If we can find just any traces of art that was existing in Gaza and was destroyed, to try to document that and to have a virtual archive for example, all the artwork in Gaza. This is a huge work that needs to be done. But I showed you restoring, for example, icons in churches. It's part of that attempt. But the book about Lilies of Gaza, about these 22 artists, again, that is to document it. This is documentation for generation to come. Karima Aboud, that nobody knew about her, the photographer. Again, that's part of researching, our stories, because Palestine is so rich in culture, but this story was not told. Actually, if you think in this country of people in culture, you think mainly of Jewish people. Film industry, Hollywood, and so on. Palestine has so much to offer, but this story was not told. This is what we need to tell.
Hi, my name's Lanny Lanchester. I was raised a Christian Zionist, and you brought this up, and I don't know where to begin, because this is our problem on this side of the water, and we need to address this. From your wisdom and your perspective of theology, do you have any suggestions for us?
You know, this is time for commercial advertisement. So I have a book there called Decolonizing Palestine. It exactly addressed this issue of Christian Zionism. But let me say maybe a few words because this is an important issue indeed. You know, the thing is, let me put it this way, it's not only that Israel occupied our land. They have stolen the land. Zionism has stolen the Bible. And the Bible that came out of Palestine became a weapon used against us by Christian Zionists. But if you read the Bible from Genesis all the way to the Revelation, you will see that this book was written over 1,000 years by the people of Palestine resisting empire. So in that sense, the Bible actually is literature of resistance. You know, if you think of the hopes of the prophets, it's about that, you know. The hopes of the prophet is about Jerusalem that was destroyed exactly like Gaza, where everyone was saying, by the empire, right? And everyone was saying it's over, and the prophets came to say, no, it's not over. We can rebuild. There is hope. There is a new day, and God is calling you for that. That's the center of the biblical message, right? Unfortunately, the Bible was hijacked by the empire, by the occupier, and became, instead of a book that talks about liberation, it became a book that talks about colonization. The Bible is not about colonization. The Bible is about liberation. And we need always to focus and to center our attention on that. And so this is just in a nutshell, it's really about what we call theologically hermeneutic, how to read the Bible.
I was just going to say, I've been writing about theological captivity, and I feel like that's where we're at. And I keep on trying to find ways out for people. And so I keep on telling my story about how I've woken up, and some people have their fingers in the ears, and we are so overcome by our media. And you have a fingers in the media now with this, so this is actually really hopeful to me. How do we get a foothold in the media that we can reach into this theological captivity of the church? This is...
Yeah, that's a very good question. And the thing is, there is some change slowly, but I feel there are. I mean, look, for example, at the young generation of evangelicals. I would consider you part of them, okay? Many of them are changing their minds. Many of them, they are not like the older generation. And they are being, just 2 days ago, I was with Shane Claiborne, for example, who comes from that, but he's now totally for Palestine. In fact, but what you said remind me that actually we are bringing a book written by 20 former Christian Zionists. and the title is What Made Me Change My Mind About Palestine. And so stay tuned. This will come out next year. It will tell many stories of these theologians, pastors, and influencers.
Okay, this is not a question, but I want to address, is it Larry? Larry? Landy, okay. In our church, we are beginning to do studies in order to become a reconciled in Christ church. And one of the things that we are reading, which I think is helpful to all of us who have the feeling that the Bible has been hijacked, and how do we fight back to what actually Jesus is saying. And we have found particularly useful a book by John Fugelsang, which is called The Separation of Church and Hate. And it's a sane guide to Christians looking at the scripture and how it was intended. What is particularly interesting is that John Fugelsang happens to be, his mother was an ex-nun and his father was an ex-priest. So for Lutherans, that should give us a lot of confidence. Anyway, no, but I would really encourage people to read that book. Again, it is The Separation of Church and Hate. It is excellent. Yeah, so that was my comment.
Okay.
Reverend Rahab, thank you for visiting us here. I'm a Palestinian American, and I would like to ask you if you support opening a branch for Al-Kalima here in the United States.
I think you have here so many universities, you don't need one more, but thank God we have Bright Stars, which is a kind of, at least they tell our story, but thank you, thank you. We would love to, especially here in California or something. One last question, maybe? I know you are so kind to me because you know I need to go and rest and have some rest before taking the flight early morning tomorrow. So, but we take...
What must change in Israeli and in Palestinian society for there to be peace in the long term?
I think, you know, I would say many things has to change in this country for peace there to take place. You know, as long as Israel can afford to do all of these wars, and actually they need it because this is the laboratory for their weapons. You know, Israel sells their weapons saying they are tested on real ground, which means real people. You cannot in this country test your latest weapons on people. It's prohibited by law. But the only country in the world that can do that is Israel. And so this is why they need every 2 years to create another war, because they want to test the latest developments. They do it to sell weapons because number one economy, income of economy for Israel is military and surveillance equipment. Why do they do that? How can they afford this? Because, you know, they get the latest weapons from this country. This country cannot test it on real people, but Israel can. So they get it from here, they test it, and then the US is happy. This has to change. The moment the Israeli will pay for the war from their own pocket, everything will stop. They will make peace. But as long as war is profitable for them, they will continue. This is what has to change. And for Palestinians, there are many things that need to change, but that's maybe for another time. Especially that, not to be naive, but to sometimes, Palestinians were naive in thinking about peace. I think the time for naivety is over. So this is what I think need to be done. Anyhow, thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate your time. And I give it now to my colleague.
Again, we are so happy to be here with you tonight, despite the hard information that's being shared. But what I get to ask you to do now is be the hope with us. Because at Bright Stars Bethlehem, we like to say hope is what we do. Hope is not this kind of cotton candy fakeness. Hope is that action that we all take. You all came here to get this information, but hopefully that's not the final step for you. We're hoping you all take a minute to now put that as hope into action. And there are a couple ways you can do this. So you can give money to Bright Stars of Bethlehem, which will go directly to the university. An annual scholarship, in case you're wondering, for a student is $7,000 for undergraduate. It's a much better value there than here in the US. So you can help support those students. You can pray. Prayer is valuable. We know it changes minds, changes hearts. You can invite us to come and speak at other places. This is just the very beginning of the tour, which is why we need to get Mitri back to the hotel, because he has, I believe, 17 events total in 10 days. He's going to be very tired. So as you're praying, make sure you throw another prayer in for Mitri, because he will need them by the time he is done. You can join our ambassador team and help us spread the word. We don't have a lot of people in our office, so we need boots on the ground to go and share information about what we do. And you can visit our website or our social media, especially if you are wanting more information about the Lilies of Gaza, because coming up for March for Women's History Month, we will be highlighting all those female artists and their stories. We have been collecting more interviews from them, where 5 of the female artists have been sending us interviews in Arabic to then be translated into English so we can get them to you. We will have the art at several churches across the United States. Sadly, not close to you right now, but the art we do have here tonight, as I mentioned earlier, is with Lucy Jan Jiggins. So when you come out, you can see her beautiful artwork and hopefully purchase it. I noticed somebody already purchased one. They took it off the wall and slid it into their car because they did not want anybody else to take it from them. They want it in their house. So do not leave without getting your artwork tonight, and half of that, the artwork sold, the proceeds will go back to Bright Stars of Bethlehem. The other half will go to another amazing organization, the Institute for Healing of Memory. So again, lots of ways you can help. The biggest one is please donate. Please help those amazing students that you heard about tonight. Help us rebuild that campus in Gaza. There's a lot of work ahead, and we know you can help us do it. Thank you.
So just 2 more minutes. Thank you, Reverend Mitri, very much. Jürgen Moltmann once said that it's really important for us to have unquiet hearts. An unquiet heart is a heart that is awake to the world's suffering, yet refuses to believe that that's the way that it has to be. I would dare say we all have unquiet hearts tonight. And I encourage you not to calm that heart, not to shove it aside, not to numb yourself out, but to do something with that heaviness. Because that heaviness can lead to hope and can lead to action, as Tracy mentioned. I dare say it's the same spirit that Reverend Mitri, the people of Palestine, Bright Stars of Bethlehem, and anybody who works for peace and justice has. And so I'm going to double click on what Tracy just said. Please, if you have the means, we encourage you to donate to Bright Stars of Bethlehem. Prince of Peace will be matching all donations up to $5,000, so please give generously this evening. Please buy some art. And then also, if you are a person who is new to this whole idea of what is happening in Palestine, please continue to educate yourself. Watch the films that you heard about tonight. Read some of the books. There is much more to learn about what has been happening in Palestine, and it is each of us sharing the reality of what is happening that will make a difference, because the propaganda and what you hear on the news is very little of what you've heard tonight. It is important that each of us share as much as we can in those brave spaces. Thank you all for coming here tonight. Thank you for being here. And may peace be with you, and may peace be with our friends and all of our human family in the Holy Land. I invite you to share in refreshments, delicious things to eat and drink, and to spend time with one another. There's a lot of incredible people here, so get to know each other. Stay as long as you like. Thank you for coming.